Hello everyone, today in this video I am going to deal with the first chapter of Footprints Without Feet of Class 10. The chapter is A Triumph of Surgery by James Herriot. Now this chapter is about a dog named Tricky who is greedy and who is a great foodie. He has never refused food. He is overfed by his mistress. As a result, he falls seriously ill and a veterinary was consulted and the dog was hospitalized, and the doctor treated that dog without shedding even a drop of blood, without using any equipment, without using any seizures. That surgery was carried on. So let's see how the doctor was able to treat that dog Tricky. I was really worried about Tricky this time. I had pulled up my car when I saw him in the street with his mistress and was shocked at his appearance. He had become hugely fat, like a bloated sausage with a leg at each corner. His eyes, bloodshot and rheumy, stared straight ahead and his tongue lolled from his jaws. So the chapter starts with I. I is here the doctor, the veterinary doctor, and the name of the dog is Tricky. So the doctor saw that dog Tricky walking in the street with his mistress, and as soon as he saw the dog, he pulled up his car. It means he stopped his car and he saw that dog, and the appearance of dog is being described that he has become hugely fat, like a bloated sausage. Now what is sausage? Sausage is something like, it's a food item. It is like a burger in which the minced meat is being stuffed. So here the dog is being referred or compared as bloated sausage. So bloated sausage, it means the overloaded. When there is overloaded stuffing in the sausage, then what happens? It seems to be bulging out, it seems to be coming out. So similarly here, it seems that the body of dog has been forcefully stuffed with food and with fats, and therefore the size has become huge, and it seems that the fats is coming out of the body of the dog. And his eyes is bloodshot, it means the color of the eyes is black. The rheumy is the white foamy material which seems to be coming out from the mouth of animals. Stared straight ahead and his tongue lolled from his jaws. And lolled here, it means hang loosely, and his tongue was coming out from his jaw. So this is the physical appearance, that how the dog looked, or you may say that the pathetic condition of the dog is being described here. Why pathetic? Because he is overweighted, and as a result his body is like a bloated sausage. Mrs. Pumphrey has tended to explain he was so listless. Mr. Herriot, he seemed to have no energy. I thought he must be suffering from malnutrition, so I have given him some little extras between meals to build him up, some malt and cod liver oil, and a bowl of Horlicks at night to make him sleep. Nothing much really. So when doctor saw his condition, he seems like that he is ill. He was not able to even move properly due to his weight. So now Mr. Pumphrey has explained to the doctor that he seems to be listless. Now what is listless? Listless is, she says that she found him lazy, lacking energy and enthusiasm. She thought that the dog was suffering from malnutrition, and therefore what she did, she gave him extra meals between the meals. He was already having meals and dinners and the main course diet, and apart from that, some supplement was given, that is malt, cod liver oil and Horlicks. So the condition of this dog is already being described in the previous paragraph. You can see that he is overweight, he is not even able to walk properly, And even after that, this lady, Mrs. Pumphrey, she finds him malnutritioned, that he is suffering from lack of nutrition, and therefore she is giving him extra supplement so that he could build up the energy. And did you cut down on the sweet things as I told you? Oh, I did for a bit, but he seemed to be so weak, I had to relent. He does love cream cakes and chocolate, so I cannot bear to refuse him. I looked down again at the little dog. That was the trouble. Tricky's only fault was greed. He had never been known to refuse food. He would tackle a meal at any hour of the day or night, and I wondered what all the things Mrs. Pumphrey had not mentioned. So now, then again, the veterinary doctor asked her a question, that has she stopped the sweet as he had advised her. Then she said that yes, he had tried a bit, but since cream cakes and chocolate are his favorite, and therefore she was not able to continue that for any longer. It means she discontinued giving him chocolates and cream for few days, but again she was not able to stop herself from giving chocolates and cakes to the dog. And then doctor looked at the condition of the dog. He felt quite pathetic about the dog, and then he said to himself in his heart and mind that this is the only reason why his weight is growing day by day. The reason was that he has never been able to refuse food. He was great foodie. Whatever was offered to him to eat at any hour, he used to eat that. So here in the image you can see the condition of the dog. His body is touching the ground. So from here you can see that how much fatty the dog has grown up. Are you giving him plenty of exercise? Well, he has his little walk with me, as you can see, but Hodkin, the gardener, has been down with lumbago, so there has been no ring throwing lately. So then again the doctor asked her that whether she is giving him exercise or not. Then she says that yes, the dog goes for walk with her only, but the other exercises she is not able to give him because the gardener is not keeping good health. He has pain in the lower back area. Lumbago, it means he have pain in the lower back area, and therefore the other exercises is not being given to the dog for the time being. I tried to sound severe. Now I really mean this. If you don't cut his food right down and give him more exercise, he is going to be really ill. You must harden your heart and keep him on a very strict diet. Mrs. Pumphrey wrung her hands. Oh, I will, Mr. Harriot. I am sure you are right, but it is difficult, so difficult. She set off head down along the road, as if determined to put the new regime into practice immediately. So now the doctor grew strict and he became severe, and he warned the lady, Mrs. Pumphrey, that if you will not cut his diet, if you will not if you will not stop giving him extra supplement, and if you will not give him plenty of exercise, then it may be that he will be really ill, and therefore you will have to stop his diet, you will have to control his diet, and you will have to give strict exercise to this dog. And at this she wrung her hand. It means she made an indication that yes, she will try her best to do that, and then she walked away from there, and her head was down, set of head down. It seemed to the doctor that now she was resoluting, she was thinking about the new regime, it means the new routine, the new timetable which she is going to give to the dog. I watched their progress with growing concern. Tricky was tottering along in his little tweed coat. He had a whole wardrobe of these coats for the cold weather, and the raincoat for the wet days. He struggled on, dropping in his harness. I thought it would not be long before I heard from Mrs. Pumphrey. So while Mrs. Pumphrey and the dog was walking down the street. The doctor remained standing there and he was watching at Tricky, who was tottering. Tottering, it means he was not even able to walk properly. It seems that he was forcing his body to proceed further. So now, and he sensed that very soon he is going to get a call from Mrs. Pumphrey. The expected call came within a few days. Mrs. Pumphrey was distraught. Tricky would eat nothing, refused even his favorite dishes, and besides he had bouts of vomiting. He spent all his time lying on a rug, panting, did not want to go for a walk, and did not want to do anything. So as the doctor has expected, very soon he received a call from Mrs. Pumphrey. She was anxious, she was worried. Distraught means anxious and worried. She was worried. Mrs. Pumphrey was complaining about the condition of the dog. She says that he is not eating anything, even his favorite dish, and he is vomiting continuously. He is lying on the rug and panting only. He is not going for walk and is not interested in anything. I had made my plans in advance. The only way was to get Tricky out of the house for a period. I suggested that he be hospitalized for about a fortnight to kept under observation. The poor lady almost swooned. She was sure he would pine and die if he did not see her every day. But I took a firm line. Tricky was very ill and this was the only way to save him. In fact, I thought it best to make him without delay, and followed by Mrs. Pumphrey's wailing, I marched out to the car carrying the little dog wrapped in the blanket. So this doctor, when he met Mrs. Pumphrey and the dog on the street, at that time only he realized that very soon he is going to get call from Mrs. Pumphrey, and then only he had made a plan. He had made a plan in advance that very soon he will get a call, and then what he will follow. That he has made a plan that he asked Mrs. Pumphrey that the dog is severely ill and he needs to be hospitalized for a fortnight, it means for 15 days. So as soon as this lady came to hear, she come to know that he is going to be hospitalized for 15 days. She was like fainting, she was not able to tolerate this, and she knew that this dog will not able to survive, will not be able to live without her, without seeing her. But the doctor was very strict this time, and he says that if he will not hospitalize her, it may be that he will die. So as soon as the call disconnected, the doctor went to bring the Tricky for hospitalization. The entire staff was roused and maids rushed in and out, bringing his day bed, his night bed, favorite cushion, toys and rubber ring, breakfast bowl, lunch bowl, supper bowl. Realizing that my car would never hold all the stuff, I started to drive. As I moved up, Mrs. Pumphrey with a despairing cry threw an armful of little coats through the window. I looked in the mirror before I turned the corner of the drive. Everybody was in tears. Out on the road, I glanced out at the pathetic little animal gasping on the seat by my side. I patted the head and Tricky made a brave effort to wag his tail. Poor old lad, I said, you haven't a kick in your butt. I think I know a cure for you. So as soon as the doctor arrived to receive Tricky to be taken for hospitalization, the whole house, all staffs and Mrs. Pumphrey were busy in packing the items, the belongings of the dog Tricky. They were packing his bed, his bowl, his food item and different things which belongs to him, and the doctor, it seemed to him that his car don't have enough space for all those things, and therefore he drove out, and in the mirror he can see that Mrs. Pumphrey was wailing and crying and she was throwing the belongings of Tricky out of the window. So now the dog was sitting beside him and he touched the dog smoothly with affection, and then he said that no problem dog, I have treatment for you, I will cure you for surely. At the surgery, the household dogs surged round him. Tricky looked down at the noisy pack with dull eyes and when put down lay motionless on the carpet. The other dogs, after sniffing round him for a few seconds, decided he was uninteresting object and ignored him. So now the dog is in hospital. There are a number of dogs there. So as soon as he reached there, as soon as he was laid on the ground, on the floor, other dog came and they sniffed him. It means they examined him, they smelled him, but Tricky, he was motionless, he did not show any sign, any movement, and the other dog found him boring, uninteresting, and therefore they left him ignored. I made up a bed for him in a warm, loose box next to the one where the other dog slept. For 2 days I kept an eye on him, giving him no food but plenty of water. At the end of the second day he started to show some interest in his surrounding, and on the third he began to whimper when he heard the dog in the yard. So now what he did, he made a bed for him with other dogs, and then for the 2 days he did not give him any food to it, he just gave him enough water. So by the end of second day he started moving, he started showing some interest in the surrounding, in the area where he was lying. And third day he started to whimper. Now what is whimper? Whimper is to produce sound in a faint voice, that is in a very low voice. So to make a continuous sound in a low voice, that is whimper. So on the third day he started moaning or making a very few sound. He started producing sound in a low voice. When I opened the door, Tricky trotted out and was immediately engulfed by Joe, the greyhound, and his friend. After rolling him over and thoroughly inspecting him, the dogs moved off down the garden. Tricky followed them, rolling slightly with his surplus fat. So next day, the doctor opened his case. He came out, and as soon as he came out, the other dog, including Joe, came there. They inspected him, they rolled over his body, they inspected him, and after that all the dogs moved to the garden and even Tricky followed them. So this was his first moment since he has come to that hospital. Later day, I was present at feeding time. I watched while Tristan slopped the food into bowls. There was the usual headlong rush, followed by sound of high-speed eating. Every dog knew that if he fell behind the others, he was liable to have some competition for the last part of his meal. When they had finished, Tricky took a walk round the shining bowls, licking casually inside one or two of them. Next day, an extra bowl was put out for him, and I was pleased to see him jostling his way towards it. So now the meal time is being described here. There at home he was served throughout the day with different food items, but here at the meal time, the Tristram, he kept food in the bowl, and as soon as the food was served, all the dogs which was present there, they ran toward the bowl to have meal. They used to run because if they will fail, if they will not reach on time, if they will not eat early, then it may be that at end they will have to fight with the dog. They will have very little food left at end, and definitely they will have to fight for the dog who would be present over there. So that day what he saw, that Tricky, when all the meal was finished, when all dog has done meal, after that this Tricky, he walked toward the bowl and nothing was left in the bowl. He just licked the bowl. And next day an extra bowl was kept for him. So next day as soon as the food was served, He ran toward the food. Jostle here, it means that pushing the other day. So now you can see that he started making movement, and now he has learned the manner of hospital. So next day, as soon as the food was served, he even ran toward the bowl, pushing other dogs. From then on, his progress was rapid. He had no medicinal treatment of any kind, but all day he ran about with the dogs, joining in their friendly scrimmage. He discovered the joys of being bowled over, tramped on, and squashed every few minutes. He became an accepted member of the gang, an unlikely silky little object among the saggy crew, fighting like a tiger for his share at mealtime and hunting rats in the old hen house at night. He had never had such a time in his life. So now his routine is totally different from what he used to have at home. So now he became acquainted, he became familiar with all other dogs, he became a part of their gang, and they were indulged in friendly fight. Now he was indulged in friendly fight with other dog. He used to play with them, he used to catch rats at night, and he looked totally different among those dogs. He was fat, he was like a silky little object, and he used to fight among them, he used to play with them, and he was now a companion of them. So he was also a member of that group now, and he was experiencing each and every fun which other dogs were enjoying, which he had never enjoyed earlier in the house of Mrs. Pumphrey. All the while Mrs. Pumphrey hovered anxiously in the background, ringing a dozen times a day for the latest bulletins. I dodged the question about whether his cushion were being turned regularly or his correct coat worn according to the weather, but I was able to tell her that the little fellow was out of danger and convalescing rapidly. So now he says that while the dog was making all this progress, at the same time the lady kept ringing him, kept calling him time and again, and she used to ask him a number of questions, that whether he was dressed properly according to the weather or not, whether his cushion was being turned over or not, and different progress, whatever progress was taking place, she used to ask a number of questions about him, and she used to call dozen times a day to be totally updated about her dog, about Tricky. So he just said in a reply, he used to just say that now he is out of danger and he is recovering from his illness. Convalescing, it means he is recovering from his illness. So she asked many questions, number of questions, and in a reply he used to just say that now he is out of danger and how now he is recovering now. The word convalescing seemed to be something to Mrs. Pumphrey. She started to bring round fresh eggs, 2 dozen at a time, to build up Tricky's strength. For a happy period, my partners and I had 2 eggs each for breakfast, but when the bottles of wine began to arrive, the real possibility of situation began to dawn on the household. It was to enrich Tricky's blood. Lunch became a ceremonial occasion with 2 glasses of wine before and several during meal. So now he says that when he informed Mrs. Pumphrey that now he is out of danger and he is improving, she started sending different food materials for Tricky, but as the doctor has pointed out that only overeating was the problem of the Tricky, and therefore he was keeping him on a strict diet, and therefore what he did, he used to consume all those eggs. He started sending eggs and wines, and therefore he as well as his partner used to consume wine as well as all other food material whatever was sent for Tricky. We could hardly believe it when the brandy came to put a final lace on Tricky's constitution. For a few nights, the fine spirit was rolled around, inhaled, and reverently drunk. They were days of deep content, starting well with extra egg in the morning, improved and sustained by the midday wine, and finishing luxuriously round the fire with the brandy. It was a temptation to keep Tricky on as a permanent guest, but I knew Mrs. Pumphrey was suffering and after a fortnight felt compelled to phone and tell her that the little dog had recovered and was awaiting collection. So now he says that what added to his surprise was that very soon she had earlier started sending eggs and wine, but now she started sending brandy. So he was surprised to see that, and as he was doing, he was not giving all those food to that dog because only the food was his enemy and only excess of food was the problem because of which he was suffering right now, and therefore he as well as his partner, the doctor as well as his partner, they used to consume those extra egg, the wine and the brandy. So he says that they were living a luxurious life at that time. They used to enjoy the extra egg in the morning, then wine in the midday meal, and then at night they used to enjoy brandy around the fire. Sitting around the fire, they used to enjoy the brandy which was sent by Mrs. Pumphrey. So now he says that when he saw all those things coming from Mrs. Pumphrey, he was tempted, he was attracted, and he thought, it came to his mind that in order to enjoy all things which are coming from Mrs. Pumphrey house, he thought that he should keep Tricky as a permanent guest. But again, it came to his mind and he knew that Mrs. Pumphrey was suffering. She can't live away from Tricky, and therefore after fortnight, that is after 15 days, he called Mrs. Pumphrey that now the dog is alright, the little dog has recovered and now he may be taken back to home. Within minutes, about 30 feet of gleaming black metal drew up outside the surgery. The chauffeur opened the door and I could just make out the figures of Mrs. Pumphrey almost lost in the interior. Her hands were lightly clasped in the front of her lips trembled. "Oh, Mr. Harriot, do tell me the truth. Is he really better?" "Yes, he's fine. There's no need of you to get out of the car. I will go and fetch him." So as when he made a call, very soon, within 30 minutes, a long luxury car came out of his surgery, that is out of his hospital. So he made a guess that definitely she would be Mrs. Pumphrey who has come to collect her dog. So she came and with her trembling lips she asked Mr. Harriot that whether he was really fine or not. Then he said that yes, he is totally fine. You need not to come down from the car. You wait here in the car. I will go and bring Tricky for you here only. You need not to get down from the car. I walked through the house into the garden. A mass of dogs was hurtling round and round the lawn, and in their midst, ears flapping, tail waving, was the little golden figure of Tricky. In 2 weeks he had been transformed into lithe, hard-muscled animal. He was keeping up well with back stretching out in great bound, his chest almost brushing the ground. So now the doctor went into the garden. He went there. The Tricky was playing with other dog, and now he has described the condition of the dog after 2 weeks. So after 2 weeks, the dog was totally transformed. He was lithe. Lithe, it means totally flexible. Now he is slim. Earlier he was overweighted, and now he is totally slim. He has hard muscle. Earlier his body was fleshy, and now he is hard muscled. He is slim. He has shed the weight. I carried him back along the passage to the front of the house. The chauffeur was still holding the car door open when Tricky saw his mistress. He took off from my arms in a tremendous leap and sailed into Mrs. Pumphrey's lap. She gave a startled "Oh!" and then had to defend herself as he swarmed over her, licking her face and barking. So he brought the dog, and as soon as the dog saw her mistress, he leaped from the lap of from the lap of Dr. Harriot, and he jumped into the lap of her mistress, and he started licking the face and barking at Mrs. Pumphrey. During the excitement, I helped the chauffeur to bring out the beds, toys, cushions, coats, and bowls, none of which had been used. As car moved away, Mrs. Pumphrey leaned out of the window, tears shone in her eyes. Her lips trembled. "Oh, Mr. Harriot," she cried, "how can I ever thank you? This is a triumph of surgery." So, while the dog Tricky and Mrs. Pumphrey was pampering each other, at the same time, he, the doctor, as well as the chauffeur went inside to bring the items, the belongings which Mrs. Pumphrey has sent for Tricky, the toys, cushion, coats and bowls and different more things. So he went inside with chauffeur to bring all those things, and the doctor says that none of those items were used, and when the car moved forward, then Mrs. Pumphrey leaned herself, and through the window she says that how I will be ever be able to thank you for what you have done to my Tricky. So she cried, she get emotional, and she was not able to thank the doctor for his action, for his treatment, because the dog was totally listless. He has become inactive, and the dog was quite close to Mrs. Pumphrey. She can't live without him, and he has treated him. Now he is totally fit and fine, and therefore she grew emotional, and she thanked the doctor. This is all about this story. So this is how we saw that due to the greedy nature of the dog, and due to extra pamperness of Mrs. Pumphrey, the dog has to suffer. So we can say that excess of everything is bad. Thank you. This is all about this chapter. If you have any doubt, write in comment box. Thank you. Thank you for watching this video.